This is the latest attack carried out by the Taliban, which has been targeting both voters and candidates. Joining us now is the senior counsel for the Foundation of Defense of Democracies, John Hanna. John, I wanted to start this segment by running through all of the examples of all the acts of violence that have taken place, but there's almost too many over the last few weeks. You've got 10 candidates killed over the course of 2 weeks, at least 150 wounded today, about 15 killed. What are you hearing about what it's like on the ground on voting day in Afghanistan?
I mean, it's a good news, bad news story. The good news is that it sounds like a lot of people have showed up. There's still an interest in elections and still an interest in democracy in Afghanistan. And a lot of people ran for office, including a lot of young people and a lot of women who want to replace these warlords and the corrupt elite that have dominated the Afghan parliament for years now. So that's the good news. The bad news, as you say, is this backdrop of awful violence. It's been as bad a year in Afghanistan as we've seen in a long time, despite the Trump administration's surge of forces and new strategy. And that's the critical issue. Can we stabilize this security situation? Because without that, no new governing structure is going to be able to succeed.
Well, and in addition to all of this violence, they're also having to deal with these huge technological glitches in terms of recording these people's votes. They've got ballot boxes missing, poll workers who aren't able to figure out how to use these newly installed biometric ID machines. What are you hearing about that?
Yeah, no, it was a very chaotic process. A lot of polling stations didn't open on time. People didn't know how to use the new technology. Some of that new technology didn't work. Voting materials didn't show up. They've had to extend the voting into tomorrow in some places. So this is real chaos that is obviously going to draw a question mark under the actual election results themselves when they're announced sometime next month.
Right. And you were saying 17 years of war, and this is about as bad as it's ever been. And then, just last week, I think one of the things that everybody here in Washington certainly is focused on is what happened to the head of U.S. and NATO forces. He had to pull his weapon in an insider attack. For this to happen and one of the U.S.'s key allies in Afghanistan killed, how big a deal is this?
Oh, psychologically, I think it's a devastating blow to have the Taliban still be able to conduct this kind of insider attack at the very highest levels of both the American command and the Afghan command. 17 years into this very, very long war, I think underscores how bad this fight is going for the United States. The Taliban now either controls or contests at least 50% of the country, and there really doesn't seem to be any more a strategy for American victory in this war. We're now totally focused on a negotiated outcome, trying to end this war by talking to the Taliban, trying to get some kind of peace deal that allows us to draw this war down.
Right, and for something like that to happen just days before an election, it just had to really hit at voter morale. And you have to think about these people who are actually risking their lives to go out and cast their vote. It just completely puts things into perspective when we're getting ready to go vote in just a few weeks ourselves.
Yeah, an absolute message of courage and defiance in the face of a Taliban and a growing Islamic State presence in Afghanistan that is totally dedicated to disrupting these elections by violence and killing as many innocent Afghans as they possibly could.
John Hanna, thank you so much for coming in
and
Kristen, providing your perspective on all this. We really appreciate it.
Sure thing. Thank you.
Leland.